What's up, guys? Deepcut here. Welcome back to Cartoon Universe. Today we are going to be breaking down a promo for the first season of the new show, The Owl House. For those who haven't seen it yet, the full first episode is available for free on YouTube, so I'll link it in a pinned comment down below. So go check it out. But for those who need a quick refresher, here is what happened so far. Luce is a creative young girl whose imaginative hijinks get her into some trouble at school. Her mother decides to send her to a summer camp for conformity, but she ends up accidentally stumbling into a horror fantasy land called the Boiling Isles, like one does. There she meets Ida, who is supposedly the most powerful witch there is, and King, an adorable little demon who claims to have once been the king of them all. Luce ultimately decides to stay in this fantasy land instead of returning to summer camp and becomes Ida's apprentice so that she too can learn how to be a witch. It was a pretty solid first episode, but if this new promo is any indication, the show is only going to get better as it goes along. The first thing we see in this promo, which does happen to have a lot of scenes that we already saw in the first episode, are shots of the witch's school that we first saw during the ending theme. It looks like Luce will be making some friends her own age there, something that is established as being important in the first episode, as her obsession with fantasy seems to have hindered that in the mundane world. Given that it is in the ending theme, I think this is going to be in a pretty important setting within the show, which is a little disappointing to me, to be honest. I like the idea of the show being Ida's adventures that Luce is tagging along on to learn magic, as opposed to the show being about Luce going to a magical school and Ida just being a sort of parental figure to give her advice. It seems that even at magic school, however, Luce is going to be facing a similar problem that she faced in the real world. In one shot, for instance, she's being dragged off to detention, probably for shenanigans that we see her getting into in various other shots within the promo. The fantasy elements of the show seem to represent Luce's hopes and dreams. It's supposed to be a parallel for a fantastic dream like being an artist or an actor, something that is possible in the real world but hard to attain. She wants to believe in a PG fantasy world, as she said in the first episode, but the truth of her dream is that it is much more horrifying than she ever could have thought. And I think this is supposed to show how even if you go after your dream in real life, it isn't going to be as magical and beautiful as in your head, but perhaps still worth pursuing. So even going to a magical school isn't going to be all it's cracked up to be. She's still going to have trouble and go to detention, and while she is finally making friends who are a bit like her, it seems that it doesn't mean everyone who goes to this magical school is going to be an ally to her. In the promo, we can see that she is butting heads with another girl, and challenges her to some sort of witch's duel, and other mentions of this seem to indicate that Luce is in way over her head. We later see Luce and the other witch in a coliseum of sorts, and in other shots, Luce is getting attacked by various monsters in that same coliseum. What is really interesting about this episode is that it seems that Ida jumps into the coliseum and starts fighting with magic as well. In the promo, we also seem to see another distinct episode plot as well. At one point, Luce starts talking about possibly having a magical destiny of sorts, and reads a magical parchment that says, "The path will only appear to the worthy," with the end of the map seeming to be a celestial lake. She sets forth on the path with some magic sword that seems to be battery-powered. Later, she seems to have completed the quest, but I have a feeling it isn't going to be all that it seems. The show seems to be deconstructing the ideal Fantasyland scenarios, and this episode will likely be a funny nod at that by having her complete the quest only to realize that hundreds or maybe even thousands of people have completed the same quest before her. The promo also gives us some hints about Ida, who I mentioned in the last video, likely has a bigger backstory we will be unraveling as the show progresses. Luce can be heard saying that she has a mysterious past, and we see that she is a sister. Their dynamic seems tense, but not too serious. I'm wondering if she will be a serious recurring character like Eclipsa was in Star vs. the Forces of Evil, or if she will be a one-off character designed to highlight how Ida isn't as mysterious as we think. I definitely hope that isn't the case. As much as I love the idea of deconstructing our fantasies and showing that reality isn't quite what we'd hoped, giving Ida no interesting backstory would be a step too far. After all, Steven Universe dealt with similar themes, realizing that the crystal gems weren't just magical superheroes who saved the Earth, but the intense backstory was an important part of that. but time will tell. Other subplots we seem to find is Luce sneaking off with her new friends using Ida's magic stick, Luce getting stuck inside of a book with her rival at school, and all sorts of subplots with weird and wacky monsters. I mean, look at these guys. They're terrifying. There's also a scene where Ida shouts body swap, and then in another shot we see some of the characters who swapped eyes. This could be its own individual episode, however, I think it might be part of the episode where Luce faces off against her rival in the Colosseum, in an attempt to give her Ida's witch's powers. That's all I have for you guys today, but I look forward to seeing the new episode this Friday. I'll be sure to make a video about that, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.